So I know that a lot of people have been focused on the most recent because I feel like both of these are recent with Cameron. Cameron just getting into it with everybody. But in his defense, people have been coming at him as well. So it's been both sides. But Cameron is obviously getting into it with Jim Jones again. Like I don't know why people act like, man, it's your brother, that's your brother. They've been to beat before, so it's not even surprising to me that they're going at it again, and Jim Jones feels some type of way about that Cameron and 50 Cent interview. But the one I wanted to focus on today, because this just came out actually 11 hours ago, is the Cameron versus Elliott Wilson beef. Now, Elliott Wilson was talking mad spicy, mad greasy on the Roy and Maul podcast. People were saying that he was sauced up, he was drinking a little bit, but Elliott Wilson has, and I've said this before, Elliott Wilson has been a very, very angry grandpa. Like the man is just on a tirade, like I don't like any of this new stuff. I'm the best journalist out. Why does no one want to talk to me? Y'all just want to go on these streams and y'all want to talk to them, but they're not giving it up. Like I would make y'all give it up because I would ask the most provocative questions, and I've been doing it for 25 plus years. And it's like this is the reason why the YNs don't mess with the old heads. This is exactly the reason, because when you have an old head coming at y'all like this and y'all didn't do anything to them, then yeah, why would they're obviously going to be offended and wonder why your old ass is stuck in the past, and you can't just give it up and be like, hey, all right, the YNs got it now. Like this is the new wave. Like I'm gonna let y'all have it and I'm gonna fall back. So Ellen Wilson has been ruffling a lot of feathers, and he's been doing it for years. Honestly, like I think that it really started with him on social media from the Drake or non-Drake interview, and I just always found that funny because he got an interview already. Like you went to his house, you and B Dot for Rap Radar, so it's not like Elliot has never talked to Drake, right? So I always found that very strange how he really feels some type of way about not getting another Drake interview. You got one already. Like that was an important interview because there were some gems in that one. He talked about the pusher battle. So it was some very important things that y'all got out of him. But I find it very strange that he's still upset because I don't know what his cadence is or what his expectations are for speaking to Drake and other like high level rappers, but like dog, Drake is not just going to exclusively talk to you, right? And Drake just he's at that point where he doesn't do those interviews anymore because again he's at the tippy top, so he can talk to whoever he wants to talk to. Like he got mad when Drake talked to Bobby. He got mad when Drake talked to Lil Yachty. Like I'm sure he's still getting mad when Drake is appearing on stream with XQC and Aiden, and it's not just him, but he's one of the more vocal ones. So in any case, for all who don't know, this has been an ongoing thing, but it mainly stems around what Drake is doing or not doing. He's like, oh, you're not giving me the look, but obviously it's other rapper too. Like I think he has something to say about Nicki Minaj. Like he's been talking about a lot of rappers and artists that have not been wanting to speak to him. And again, traditional journalism, because he always says that traditional journalism is not where it used to be. Like people don't care, especially these newer artists. They don't care to talk to and have a traditional interview anymore. They much rather go on Kai Sinat stream or Aiden stream or Black Boy Max. They much rather go to them because they feel like they can be more comfortable and they can better relate to someone who's their own age or around their age rather than just have a traditional interview when you're talking about the same old stuff that you've been hearing for years and years and years. So, in any case, going back to the Roy and Maul podcast, he had some things to say. And Cameron randomly, I don't know what Cameron did to Elliot. Everybody was trying to figure out when he said it, but Elliot had some words about Cameron, because Cameron, he does a sports podcast, and he has him and Mace have been very successful going in this lane. Cameron and Mace, they could have easily done a music podcast, but they chose to pivot and do something else, right? And he had words for Cameron talking about, he's not a traditional journalist and blah blah blah. Like he was just crashing out. on Cameron. Cameron was like, he's like the 50 Cent meme. Like, what the F you say, what, why you say F me for? Like, I did nothing to you. So now we're here. Now we're here. I don't know how they set this up, and I actually wasn't expecting it. But today, and I'm not gonna play really any of it, but I'll just give you the footnotes because I did watch this whole interview. But Cameron and Elliott actually sat down. I wish Elliott was there in person, but he wasn't. He was via remote. But they talked to each other and they had a quote unquote debate. So in short terms, they're all good. There's no bad blood in between them. But the things that I want to point out were Elliot Wilson immediately apologized. He said that I didn't like how I saw myself in that interview. I was a little saucy, so like I apologize. I didn't mean to say those things. So right off the bat, before they even really got into it, he apologized for what he said about Cameron. And then Cameron is funny because he then proceeded to flame him up. He flamed him up a little bit. So I was like, what type of energy is Cameron going to give us, right? Like Cameron, he jokes anyway, but he flamed him up and then he got professional. I just found that, pretty hilarious. But they had a man to man. They had to sit down and there were some gems. There were Draw Cameron. He spoke about how, again, like as I mentioned before, how he came up and how he wants to do things for himself. Like he's always looking out for himself, and how everybody was trying to tell him to do a music podcast, and he didn't want to do a music podcast. He wanted to do what everybody else, wasn't doing. Like he didn't want to do the same thing that everyone else was doing. Because again, every artist imaginable has a radio show or a podcast, where again they're talking mostly about music. He didn't want to do that. So he did sports, and he was like, I played basketball in high school and a little bit in college before I got kicked out. So he was going over his story, and, why he chose to do what he does, and some other business ventures that he's into. So we get into that, and then Elliot was talking about his past and why he feels how he feels, and I feel like Elliot should again learn to adapt here. He needs to learn how to adapt because this villain role, I don't think this is going to work out how he maybe thinks in his head it should be. Because instead of being a villain, you just seem like just a old angry uncle who's on the stoop saying, get on my stoop, kids. Like I don't like anything that y'all are doing, and y'all need to respect me. And again, it's going to make people dislike you even more. Having that type of mindset. So I feel like Ellie, especially at this point, he said he's very competitive, and he does feel like he's the best journalist out there, especially in the hip hop space. But there has to be a point where you do have to get out of the YN's way. You have to get out of their way, and I would recommend for Elliot to either find another niche, because I don't think that this continuous format of doing traditional journalism is going to last very long. Like new media is very prominent here. New media is very prominent. And I feel like people more and more, and I'm finding myself doing this too. Like I don't really watch The Breakfast Club or anything like that anymore, where there's, quote unquote traditional journalism. I find myself a lot of times going to the alternate spaces, the alternate media, when I want to find out more, about somebody. Like I don't want to just have or listen to a traditional interview anymore just to sit down one on one. I want it to be a more comfortable setting. I want there to be some uniqueness. I want there to be, for whoever is the main person, I want them to be able to get another side of that celebrity or artist or athlete that I haven't seen before. Like I want them to get into the nitty gritty, I want them to deep dive into it, but also make the person feel comfortable. So that's me. Those are my preferences now, and I feel like Elliot should just get out the way. Either find another niche, or he should start mentoring, being behind the scenes. I think that it's his time to be behind the scenes. He can mentor people. He could start a network and bring some up and comers up and thrust them into the spotlight. That's what I feel like he should do at this point. Because again, I don't think that this is working how he thinks it should be. Like I don't think that him and B Dot, because Rap Radar has kind of been on hold. They said they're looking for another deal. They were with Tidal, they were with Warner, and he said there was another deal that they were trying to work out, and it fell through at the last minute. So they said they're looking for somewhere else that they could land. So Rap Radar, that's why Rap Radar hasn't been doing anything lately. But he's like, I want to start that back up. But I don't think Rap Radar, even if they did bring it back, I don't think that it'll be the same. I don't think that, even though the OGs will respect it, I don't think that the YNs will be able to relate to it how they do. Going to Akai or Lil Yachty or Aiden, like those are the people who they can relate to because they're again they're around their age and whenever they're talking to a celebrity or whatever, it doesn't feel like an interview because again, they're not asking them questions like that. So that's what it is. But that's my take on it. But this was a really great watch. I recommend that y'all do check this out if y'all have been following this Cameron, Elliott Wilson, or even the Jim Jones beef because Jim Jones just like dropped the diss track, like preview the diss track. I'm like, here we go again, man. Jim Jones, he feeling disrespected, so he back on his stuff. But yeah, great interview though. I'm glad it wasn't any bad blood in between them. Cameron outside of him, throwing a couple of roasts his way. He was, very very respectful. He didn't flame him up. He didn't flame him up. So shout out to Elliott, man. He was a great sport. He was definitely a great sport. And they hash these out like men, and I love it, man. I love when black men can hash these out. Because again, I don't know why Elliott wishing crashed out in the first place. Like it was very weird and out of left field. Again, to talk about Cameron like that, I'm like, what beef y'all got? It was interesting. It was interesting. So I don't know, man. I don't know.